Okay. So before we move into the subject, why this is a fascinating area of developmental biology, simply because so human beings, as we evolve, we started to wonder why certain lower animals are capable to regenerate specific organs. For example, if you look at the lower animals, like we have seen in the planaria, hydra, even some of the amphibian like salamanders, they can completely regenerate their individual organs. But that capacity is limited as the complexity of the organism increases. For example, in the mammals, probably few organs, for example, is a liver, is the only organ that is going to be developing if you cut it off. Otherwise, most of the organs lost their capacity to regenerate. So why this capacity is lost in the complex animals? Why we cannot do it? Because it will be very useful for our organism to retain the capacity to regenerate the organs. Think about it. If you lost a limb or some other organ, if you can regenerate that one. That means that you can attain immortality in certain way. Okay, so that is the idea. And if you look at it, this particular area that dramatically changed the biology as a science itself, because before this particular area, the regeneration of organs in animal systems is studied, biology is looked upon as a kind of lower kind of science, because most of the scientists are so-called biologists working on the problems associated with the biological systems don't do any experiments. They simply observe. They see, for example, imagine uh, they just look at it. They describe the plant, how much petals are there, how much sepals are there, how much individual stamens are there, or how these two organisms copulate. So only they simply describe, or they cut open a body of animal and they draw the digestive tract. So the other fields like your physics or chemistry, they always thought that okay, biologist doesn't do any experiments. So the intellectually it is lower or comparatively lesser value is attached to the biology as a science system. So probably you know that, right? There is no Nobel Prize for the biology as such. Later, they have given the awards in medicinal field. Okay, there is no Nobel laureate in biology. So Nobel laureate in medicine is what we are always talking about. So this is the one area which started actually doing experiment on animals. For example, they try to see how different organs are going to develop. What will happen if I remove a particular region of an animal and I'll replace it with some other. So the experiment as such is started in this particular area, the developmental biology, regeneration. So this dramatically changed the way the other fields, other scientists look into biology. So that is one of the interesting things. Then we will move to this particular subject. Today we are talking about the regeneration. So the regeneration is about individual organs developing after they are cut off or removed or injured or something happens to them. The capacity of the animals to regenerate the particular organ, how they are going to do is what we are going to discuss today. So you can see that before we go into that, you should understand the terminology. So the slides describes the different terminologies describing a particular organ. What is an anterior? This is a posterior. This is the proximal. This is the distal. and the dorsal and ventral sides, left and right axis. So different axes, they describe, right, to understand when an organs develop proximally or distally, what does it mean? Okay, proximal is closer to the body, or distal is the away from your body. Ventral, dorsal, you know that, and right and left, you know, anterior, posterior also you have already seen. Okay, so if the regeneration as such is what the capability of the animals to develop or reactivate the development of the post embryonic life. So that means we are talking about the post embryonic stages of your uh, organ systems. Okay. So there are three several examples for regeneration. We have seen the hydra. Though it is capable of sexually reproducing, it normally develops through asexually, the budding process. Then we have seen the planaria. I think we have discussed that in the first unit itself, how these planarians are retaining their own regeneration capacity, where you can cut, depending upon where the cut is made. This individual pieces of this planaria is capable of developing into an organisms. And amphibians in fish, we have seen it is not a complete regeneration as in the case of the primitive animals like your hydra or planaria. It is only the specific portions like the entire limb or the fins, or have their capacity to develop into organ regeneration capacity, you can call that. Though then the mammals, yeah, a very specific example is the antlers of the uh, deer. We can see that, and liver of our human being, and some organs like some tissues in the animals. So they are having the regeneration capacity. And nowadays, you know that the zebrafish is extensively used as a model for development of the different organs like CNS, retina, heart, and liver. So the regeneration, they have classified the regeneration process into two important mechanisms. One is called as epimorphosis or epimorphic regeneration, morpholaxis or morpholactic regeneration. So the two terms are used: epimorphosis or epimorphic regeneration, morpholaxis or morpholaxic regeneration. So you know that again our famous Morgan, we know that Morgan is famous for his genetic studies. So he want to differentiate two processes. One is the morpholaxis. So the morpholaxis is the regeneration that did not use cell proliferation in the example is hydra. So there is no cells that proliferate during the morpholactic regeneration. In the sense that if you look at the epimorphic regeneration, what happened there is there the cells de-differentiates. So you know what is a differentiation? So it is the attaining the specific characteristics for a particular cell is called as differentiation. So de-differentiation is the reverse process. The cells will lose their identity and become a very common mesenchymal cell that can be again developed into any kind of organ, any type of cell. That is what we call as de-differentiation process. This kind of de-differentiation of the cells, then it proliferates, then it develops an organ that is called as epimorphosis development. Whereas the existing cells, for example, an organ contains of 5 to 6 types of cells. Each cell type divide and contribute to the new developing new organ. That is called as the morpholactic regeneration. So the morpholactic regeneration, there is no de-differentiation and there is no proliferation of the cells. Whereas in the morpholactic, you have in the epimorphosis, you have the proliferation of cells. So the examples is the regeneration of the amphibian limb is going to be the example for a epimorphic regeneration, whereas the hydra formation is the example for the morpholaxic regeneration. So there are other types of regeneration. They have observed the stem cell mediated one. So the stem cell mediated regenerations, you know that the cells regrow. They have individual cells called as stem cells. Each organ or tissue type retain certain stemness. So these cells, if it is going to be used for regeneration, that is called as stem cell mediated regeneration, whereas compensatory regeneration is another one. There is no dedifferentiation, just similar to the morpholaxis, just the individual cells contribute to the development of the organ. So these are all examples. You can see that epimorphosis involves the dedifferentiation. It's like one cell, it will become dedifferentiate, that cell will give rise to different cells. But compensatory regeneration is like each cell develops, just multiply and provide the requirement for the development or developing organ. The morpholaxis regeneration trans differentiation. That means there is no intermediate. You can see the difference between these two. You can see this differentiate between these two structures. Okay, this intermediate is the process called as dedifferentiation. Here, this particular differentiated cell loses its identity and develop into a dedifferentiated cell, which later could be developed into any kind of cells by acquiring specific properties. But here, the morpholaxis, there is no such process. You can see that a columnar epithelial cell can be directly converted into a fibroblast. There is no intermediate. So if there is no intermediate, then it is morpholaxis. If it goes through a process like dedifferentiation, it is called as epimorphosis. So this example is going to be the hydra. The example is going to be the development of the limbs in the salamanders. And the stem cells, you know that the organs have the multipotent stem cells that give rise to any kind of cell. Compensatory is just, they just divide, provide more cells of a particular type. So we'll start with the epimorphic regeneration. Okay, so it involves extensive cell proliferation and dedifferentiation, reformation. These three processes you can observe only in the epimorphic regeneration: the extensive cell proliferation, dedifferentiation, reformation. And there is an important structure that is formed that is called as blastema. So the blastema is nothing but the mass of cells that accumulate in the site of the injury. So this blastema contains the dedifferentiated proliferative cells. Okay, so it is a very simple model for development because it only occurs the tissue surrounding the site of injury. So you cannot see this kind of development anywhere. If there is an injury, only at that particular site you can see this kind of development. And it restores the anatomy of the organisms. Original polarity is maintained. So you can see that in the salamanders, annelids, and the planarians. So the extensively studied epimorphic regeneration is the salamanders, salamander limb generation. So when an adult salamander limb is amputated, it will develop into a new limb. Okay, so the beauty of the process lies the developing limb somehow knows the axis, the polarity, and the overall geometry of the organ. For example, probably I'll show you in the next slides. You can see. So in the limb can be cut into cut in different ways, right? You can cut near to the digits, you can cut to the near to the ankle, or you can cut the elbow. But depending upon where this cut is made, you can see the development accordingly. For example, if a cut is made at the elbow, the limb will develop all the parts except that elbow, right? Because the elbow is already there. If it is cut near the digits, again the limb grows only the digits, not the elbow. So somehow this particular mode of development will understand the axis, polarity, and the three-dimensional geometry of the organ, so that they develop a proper organ structure. So the limb knows where the proximal distal axis, and it will be able to regenerate from that particular point. So again, yes, as I told you, right, it will develop a blastema. So blastema is an aggregation of relatively undifferentiated cells derived from the originally differentiated tissue. Then it proliferates and redifferentiates. Okay, you can see that this is the process. So you have a differentiated tissue that will become de-differentiated. Then they proliferate. Then they again differentiate to specific types of cell to which the development is progress. You can see that you can develop bones, dermis, cartilage. So all these things. So this is, that we have seen the development of the cartilage, we have seen the development of dermis, how many genes involved, what are all the processes involved in the last unit, right? All these things can be reversed. It's like you just rewind the tape. You slowly remove all those genes that are expressed for the differentiation and maintaining the differentiated state. Slowly you switch off those genes and you start to express those genes that is going to give you a kind of a mesenchymal de-differentiated identity. Then this another set of genes will get expressed that will direct the particular de-differentiated cells to a new differentiated structure. So it is a beautiful process. You can see that, right? This is how this, you can see that depending upon where the cut is made, whether it is before the elbow or after the elbow, the developmental process is very beautifully synchronized, so that depending upon where the cut is made, accordingly the organ is generated. So you can see it is after the elbow, this is before the elbow it is cut. You can see the entire elbow is getting generated here, whereas only this particular portion is generated in the. But remarkably, the time that is required is almost the same. Whether it is going to be an extra region that has to be developed or not. Okay, so this is what is. So this individual steps. So you have an apical epidermal cap. They call it as AEC. Probably somebody can ask you in the multiple choice questions. Okay. So this apical epidermal cap, the name itself tells you it is at the apex. It is an epidermis and this is a cap. This is the cap that is formed originally at the site of injury. Okay, it originally starts as a plasma clot. Okay, so the epidermal cells migrate to cover the wound surface, forming wound epidermis. Okay, but this happens in all the animals, particularly the mammals. Also, you can see if there is a cut is made, you can see the plasma clot that recruit the proteins. Then the epidermal cells try to migrate to that injury site and try to cover that area. But what happens there in the normal mammals is there will be a scar tissue formed. that cover the region that is lost due to the injury. But in the case of your I hope somebody is playing with it or unknowingly doing that. Don't use the marker pens. I can see who is doing that also. You can redo that so that it will erase the markings that are created during the presentation. I hope you are hearing, right? Yeah, thank you. So what happens is like, so then nerves innervating the limb degenerate. So some amount of nerve tissue will be lost short distance proximal to the plan of amputation. So where the amputation is happens, very close to that, there will be a degeneration of the nerves. Then what happens? You need to, as I told you, there will be a de-differentiation process, right? This de-differentiation process means it is going to loses their identity. So the extracellular matrix has to be destroyed. Then by the proteases, the single cells are there, and these cells are mononucleated cells. So this bone cells, cartilage cells, fibroblasts, myocytes, all of them lose their identity. And they thought that originally, for example, in the initially when they saw that, okay, all of them is completely de-differentiate and they become a homogeneous kind of cell. Then later it is disproved that even though they become mononucleated kind of cells without any morphological shape, they still retain some amount of their original characters. So dermal cells come from mole dermal cell, cartilage cells come from cartilage. Only thing is that their morphology is lost. Okay, so this mass is called as regeneration blastemia. So the genes that are expressed are the MRF4 and MIF5 genes. Okay, so these genes are actually differentiating genes. These genes are downregulated, and those genes that requires for the MSX1 is a gene that helps in the regeneration process. You can see this thing. This is a artistic view. This is your original tissue cross section. You can see the apical epidermis cap, and you can see the cells, all the cells, right? You can see the individual cells like bone progenitors, connective tissues. All of them try to degenerate. You can see even the nerves, some of the nerves will degenerate and again regenerate to develop into axons. So there are two things. One is the FGF8, the fibroblast growth factor 8 that actually helps in the apical epidermis cap, and it also requires nerves. So the nerve cells, they transmit certain mitogens that are going to help in the regeneration process. So they have done several experiments, and they have shown that there is a necessary for the neural conductance, the actin potential required for the regeneration. Okay, then the another protein that is important for this regeneration is the NUT, anterior gradient protein. In NUT, it's kind of a salamander. So they have identified that protein in that particular animal. So they call it anterior gradient protein. So this protein causes blastema cells to proliferate in the culture. You just add this protein in the culture, so you can see that there is a proliferation. You do that in the experiment. Okay. So the other protein is the NAG, NUT antigenic anterior gradient protein. It is actually important for the developmental process. So these are all the examples for the experiments they have done. So you can see the GFP expressing cartilage that is transplanted, and then you amputate. you can see this cartilage tissues are going and the development of a new limb. Again, these are all the transplant experiments. To transplant the, you can see the contralateral, they call this, for example, it is opposite of this region. Somehow they develop into a individual organ systems. So with that, we'll come to end with the epimorphic regeneration. So to summarize the epimorphic regeneration, it is like, so you have an injury. So that injury, what happens? There will be a clot form, plasma clot. Then the second thing that is happening is the formation of the movement of the epidermal cells. They cover up and create an apical epidermis cap. Below that, all the cells types like cartilage, bone, other cells, they started to de-differentiate by down regulating the important genes like MGF, and those genes that requires for the de-differentiation is overexpressed. So the cells loses their morphological structures, the extracellular matrix got degraded. Then finally, the cells move towards and they start to redifferentiate. And this particular process knows the axis, right, left axis, and as well as the polarity, so that they'll create a particular organ. Also, this process requires certain proteins like your NUT anterior gradient proteins, your GF8 fibroblast growth factor 8, and you can also see the nerves that are important for the regeneration process. So next one is the morpholactic regeneration. So the morpholactic regeneration, we have seen that there is no active proliferation, only the cells differentiate. So what happens? It can be explained in these two diagrams. So for example, how this process is happening is, you know that hydra will develop through the budding process. So how this bud is created? Now look at it. The secondary bud, there is something called a hypostomes, that is the mouth region, right? That is surrounded by the tentacles. So what they do, what they are claiming is, there are three different gradients. One is the head activator gradients, head inhibitor gradients, as well as the basal or boot inhibitor gradients. So what happens is, if this particular head is present, right, it inhibits formation of the second head in the organism. So that there is no extra heads that are formed in the developing hydra. So similarly, they also have a basal disc, right? So that will actually helps in development of the base or foot. The head will help in the development of the head. Near to the hypostome, there is a region that is rich in this particular gradient. What it does is actually it helps in the formation of the head. It is helps in the foot. But you cannot create a foot here. You cannot create a head here, because as long as one head is there, it will prevent the other head from forming. Similarly, the basal foot will prevent the formation of the foot near to it. It can be a new head or a foot can be only formed when it is very far away from the head or the foot. So this is the mechanism the hydra uses. What happens if a very young adult, so what happens, the head is going to be here and the basal region is going to be here. They are very close to each other. Okay, so as this organ, this particular adult grows, you can see the head, the distance between the head and tail is increasing. So the gradient, you can see the head inhibitor gradients apply from here to here, whereas the foot will be like in this direction. Since in the young animal, they are close together, the gradients are very high, so there is no formation of bud in the region. But as the organism become an adult or enlarged, the gradient is getting diffused. So if you look at this region now, it has a very less head inhibitor and very less tail inhibitor or foot inhibitor. So in this region, you can develop an organ. That is what it is explained in the Hydra development. And we also know that animals, higher mammals can develop organs. Particularly, the development of liver is well studied. So the liver, there is no trans differentiation. It's like your liver have 5 different cells, right? So these 5 different cells are the hepatocytes, blood cells, fat cells, and endothelial cells, and puffer macrophages. So each of them just increase in number and come together to develop into a liver. There is no differentiation, dedifferentiation or transdifferentiation. Just these cells multiply and compensate for the lost organ. So this is called as Prometheus punishment. Probably you know there is a Greek story in which this Prometheus is eternally punished. How he is punished is he will be tied to a rock, and every day eagle will come and eat a part of his liver, and the next day the liver will grow again. The eagle will come and eat the part of his liver. So it's like a partial hepatectomy. So it shows that probably the Greeks has a knowledge of the growth of the liver. Again, hello. So this what happens in the, how this happens is, all the cells that is required for the formation of the liver is multiplied and the regeneration happens. And it has also been shown that some of the heart cells retain their this capacity of regeneration, particularly after a heart attack. Some of the heart tissue, the cardiomyocytes, can regenerate some of the tissues. So other than that, we have the uh, mice models that is going to help the regeneration process. So the functional effects of protein is involved in the regeneration of the liver. So that is about the 3 different process. We have seen the morphollaxis. Example is the Hydra. It involves the gradients and transdifferentiation. So you know that Hydra has 2 layers of cells, the 2 epithelial layers. There is no mesoderm actually. So the limited number of cells are there. All they have to do is just one cell will transform into a cell that is required. For example, the spines and other organs. The epimorphic is, the example is the formation of limb in salamander. We have seen that extensively. And the other model of regeneration is the liver formation in mammals, which is just replicating or the dividing of the cells and increasing the number to compensate for the loss of that particular region in an organ. So with that, we will finish the regeneration process. The next class probably will see the senescence and the genetic cause of aging. So any questions? Anyone want to talk? So why you people are not scoring good in the last test? Hello? Hello everyone.
Yes, sir.
Why the last test is like very bad performance? Most of you are already failed, and what happened?
The syllabus was too much.
Syllabus was too much.
Yes, so the test was kind of
So
hard.
the test was a little difficult also.
Yeah, I can understand that, but that is Somite and derivatives. Lot of
Somite,
things is
yes,
Okay,
Somite
you don't have to
and
worry much because you just understand the. I always tell you, right? Sometimes what happens is like the people are taking classes from the latest editions. You stick to the sixth edition, that is the NCBA website, right? That is suffice for your exams. Okay. If you study that, it will be easier for you. Hello?
okay,
Hello,
sir.
sir.
Okay,
What
sir.
do we have to study from?
That NCBA website that I am telling you, right? Always in the class also I have shown you.
Okay, sir.
Use that so that it will be easier for you to follow. Because we will go for the latest editions, there are too much information and you get confused.
Okay, sir.